Y'all see these big, beautiful windows behind me? Would you believe that a few years ago, I was throwing a cup of this and the cup through those windows, shattering them, breaking them, busting them, causing $5,000 worth of damage? Well, it's true. I did it. It happened. And I'm going to tell you why it happened. I'm also going to tell you what I learned from it and why it will never happen again. Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Jamal Cast. I promise you some sensational views, some fun experiences, some engagement, some lessons, and lots of fun. And here we are, right? Now, I also did promise I'd do it every day or even every week. I'm still figuring out how often I'm going to do these. I'd like to do them weekly. I don't know if I'm going to do them daily, but anyway, here we are with the second Jamal Cast. My little sidekick, my production manager, Chance, is here with me. And I am here at the W South Beach in Miami. Like behind me, you can see beautiful ocean views, all that wonderful stuff that South Beach is known for. Of course, it's early in the morning, so you're not going to see the other stuff that South Beach is known for. But this side of South Beach, the northern side of South Beach, I really like because it's kind of chill and laid back compared to the southern side of South Beach, pretty much it's a nonstop park. But nonetheless, here I am, and I'm at the W South Beach for a reason. I'm going to tell you what it is. All right, so here we are. I am turned around now. You can kind of see the view in the reflection of these beautiful windows. Yeah, I'm not going to keep the sun behind me because that will make the video blurry. And I promise y'all I do my best. I didn't bring all my tech tools, so I'm going to try to do some editing to clean this up. But anyway, here we are, right? Yeah. So we came here for part of our honeymoon, and we're having some ridiculous argument, which we often did, and should have been assigned to me a long time ago that this relationship wasn't ready or right for marriage. But, we're having a stupid argument. Well, those really stupid arguments didn't start happening more frequently and more severely until we actually got married. So I don't know how I would have figured that out. Otherwise, which is a lesson in and of itself, right? Sometimes we think, you're supposed to have figured this out. How did you make that mistake? You should have known better. But some things you just can't learn until you fuck around and find out. Because what happens, some folks are wonderful during engagement. You're dating and then they become beast when you marry them. It's like watching Beauty and the Beast or Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or any of those kind of movies. Other folks, they're consistently who they are all the time, right? But usually the unhealed ones are the ones who do that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde stuff, The healed ones are the ones that are consistently who they are. And I like to think I was consistently who I was most of the time through the relationship, but she wasn't. But anyway, it is what it is, right? I learned my lesson. But yeah, we were here having some stupid argument on our honeymoon. And I'm like, hey, we had come to some agreement that, if we have these kind of arguments or whatever, I'll just say what I really feel, which is that I love you too much to have this argument. Please excuse me. Give me a minute to go take care of myself and we can come back and talk when things are cooling down. And so I tried that. They'll give you those kind of sayings and things in therapy and coaches. We do it. I've given people those kind of sayings as coping skills and recommendations. But when you're dysregulated, either you or them, it's sometimes hard to deal with that. So one tip is before you get dysregulated, when you start seeing me going in that direction, you got to start that then. You can't wait until it gets so out of control that you're like, hey, I love you too much. I don't want to have this argument. That's a lesson I learned because I think I waited. I should have said that sooner before I was get dysregulated because she was already there. But yeah, we're having this argument. I say the magic words. I love you too much to have this argument. Please give me a minute to go get myself together and I'll come back and, we'll cool down. And she was not having it. So she follows me all around the room. And then we got this gorgeous suite. It's not this exact one, by the way, but it's one like this. And maybe we were actually much higher up back then. And anyway, it just escalated because she's chasing me around the room and constantly trying to have this conversation that I'm like, I don't really want to have right now. It's early in the morning. I'm trying to get my coffee in. I'm trying to get myself together and get ready to go enjoy our honeymoon. We had just gotten here, maybe a day or two before. One of my friends owns a sex products company. So she gave us some sex stories as our wedding gifts. I'm like, we could play with these. Let's do it. Something like anything to get her off this topic. And it wasn't happening. And then she knows, finally, I'm like, I'm going to go out on the balcony. I'm like, maybe that will put a barrier between us. I'll just go sit out there, finish my coffee and just let her do her thing. And nope, she follows me out here. She follows me out onto the balcony. And I'm like, okay, now I'm really screwed. So it's another tip. Don't use the balcony as your escape. Because once you're out there, once you're out here, there's only so many ways off, right? And I'm like, okay, she's out here. I want to get away because this is going to get out of control. And there's no way to do it, right? Because she's blocking the door. And the only other way off is for me to jump, which I'm obviously not going to do. Otherwise I got to push through her. I got to somehow figure out how to get through this door. And again, being a little dysregulated, I'll own, because at this point now I'm really ticked. I'm really upset. I'm really ready to explode, but I'm trying my best to be a good man and not do that, right? So I get a brilliant idea. I'm like, well, this coffee's cold. I've been sitting out here trying to sip it and she's not been letting me. I'm like, maybe if I just throw it on her, that'll shock her enough to stop and I can get by. So I did. I threw the coffee, cold coffee, and she immediately slapped him in return. And woof, talk about dysregulation. Woof, nothing like getting slapped. I guess same is true. Nothing like getting some cold coffee thrown on you either. Not the hot coffee kind like Mallory did in Beauty and Black, by the way. That's not dysregulation. That's like second and third degree burns. That's like criminal. But nonetheless, she slaps me. So at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm really ready to hit back, which I don't do at all. Hit women. So I'm like, what else can I do to get this, frustration out? And this is all split second thinking, which again is why when you're dysregulated, you don't need to be doing this, right? But the split second thought in my head was like, okay, well, let's throw the cup. Let's throw the cup. Do something with the cup, like get mad at the cup, not her. So I throw the cup. And you guessed it, I threw it right into the window. And it broke the cup. And it broke the whole window. A whole big pane of glass just broke, shattered, and it came tumbling down. Yep, right here at the W South Beach. Yeah, $5,000 worth of damage. Was not cute. Was not fun. And definitely made for an unpleasant honeymoon. At least it started it here. Then we went down to Key West, where I now live, and actually had a great time. And then on to Puerto Rico and had a great time. But, this part of the trip was not good. Now, why do I tell all my business like this? I'll tell you why. I tell all my business like that for you to learn the lessons that I have now figured out, because I've now come back here and I've said it all. One, I'm not dysregulated. I've learned a lot. Time has passed. I've done some healing work, some transformation work, some self-care work, all that stuff. But I can see now how I was part of the problem, right? Not causing it but I certainly contributed to it. I don't know what other choices I could have made other than to leave the room, which probably was the right choice. Again, also, I probably could have vocalized my need for us to stop earlier. But nonetheless, I can see how a dysregulated person, or if you get me dysregulated, and cause me to have an outburst that's uncharacteristic, but nonetheless, because the biggest thing I worried about after that happened, and have judged myself for a while until I did the healing work and forgave myself. The biggest thing I worried about was, where the hell did that come from? And then I thought about something I learned from Wayne Dyer. Yeah, I remember Wayne Dyer, Dr. Wayne W. Dyer. Love him. May he rest in peace. Great teacher, great motivational speaker, great spiritual advisor. And one of the things he taught me, one of the things he taught many people, was, it's called the orange juice moment. He asked a simple question: what do you get when you squeeze an orange? And everybody gets all befuddled, or tries to get all philosophical and smart and come up with some kind of complicated answer, some kind of, abstract answer. Like, the obvious answer is never the one they get unless you ask a child, because when you ask children, they don't feel the need to do all that pretending and impressing, especially when they're really young. They just say what's on their mind. They say what's obvious. And, so he asked a bunch of adults and they do what adults do. And then he asked a child, and the child says, orange juice. And he's like, bingo, right. When you squeeze an orange, what comes out all of the time, 100% of the time, not 99.999% of the time, 100% of the time, what comes out is orange juice. Even if it's dry and a little rotten, you're still going to get a little juice. It might be rotten juice, it might be nasty juice, it might be sour juice, but it's going to be the juice of an orange. And the reason why is because that's what's inside. That's what's inside of an orange. There's also some pulp, but that's not going to come out immediately, but it'll come out with some of the juice. But that's what's in it, is pulp and juice. That's what's in it. Some membrane and whatever else, but that's what's in it. Okay. And then he applies it to us personally. When you put a person under pressure, what comes out is what's on the inside. See what I did there? See what he did there, right? What comes out of you when you are dysregulated, when you're under pressure, under stress, is what's inside, right? When you apply pressure to things on this planet, what comes out of them is whatever's inside. That's just how it works, right? And I had to confront the reality. It's like, that came out of me. I had never had an experience like that. Most of my marriage, we were having experiences where I'm like, I had never had this experience before. Never. Like, a lot of the arguments and unpleasant experiences, I'm like, I have never had this. I've had many relationships. At that time, I was mid-40s. I was 50. I'll be 50 in a few months now. But, I had many relationships by then. And I'm like, I've never had this experience. I don't even know what this is. I remember when we were together, there's times that she would communicate and do things. And I'm like, I may as well be married to a Chinese woman. Because what she's saying and doing, I would probably understand better if she was saying it in Chinese. Because this language, this behavior, I'm not familiar with. I don't understand it. But nonetheless, after a while, it got to me. And it brought out some things in me that I didn't know were there. And I had to deal with the fact that, you put me under enough pressure, I can explode. You put me under enough pressure, I can get a little dysregulated. Put me under enough pressure, I can even get a little violent. I was raised by cops, so I guess I should, expect that. Not that cops get violent, but, one thing the cops will do, you put them under enough pressure, they have some resources, some tools, they'll lock you up. They might even shoot you. Who knows what they're going to do? Because, why I said that, right? My parents obviously didn't do any of that kind of stuff, but, they had some resources and some tools to deal with their frustration that I don't have. So I used the ones that I did have. This cup in that class. But I say all that to say, look, you've got to start paying attention to what happens to you, not just when you're regulated, right? When everything's fine, everything's great. You got to pay attention to what happens when it isn't. You got to pay attention to how you behave when you're stressed. Are you short? Are you rude? Are you condescending? Are you dismissive? Are you all those kind of unpleasant things that sometimes are understandable? They're rarely justified because you're directing them at people that don't deserve it, generally. And even if it's at the person that hurt you, you know, two wrongs don't make a right, sweetie. Sorry. You know, two wrongs don't make a right. So I still can't say that they deserve it either. And what I've learned is that when you're really healed, when you are not exhausted, as I was as we got into our honeymoon, when you've taken care of yourself enough, you know, to say, okay, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm going to go take care of myself. And you do that regularly. You don't react like that. You also don't have a lot of that stuff inside of you anymore because you've gotten it out or you've dealt with it, right? And in my case, I've done both. I've gotten it out and I've dealt with it. I've seen that, yeah, there is some pent up frustration in me. Yeah, there is a tendency to react rather than respond, particularly when I'm under pressure and under stress. And what I've got to figure out how to do is to, one, deal with that lingering, smoldering fire that's in me, that I didn't know was there, but I know it's there now. I need to deal with that and figure out what that's about. And that's something I'm working on. I think you should work. But also, if you know you have it, then at some point you got to say, okay, I'm going to work on coming up with a plan to deal with this before I get to the point where I can't. Right. Sort of like, fire drills, like when you were in school, or even sometimes at jobs I've had, we had fire drills, not to be annoying or to be frustrating, not to interrupt your day, although that's often how we perceived it, but to help you prepare for what to do when things are chaotic, when you are panicked and afraid. If you've prepared, if you've done these drills enough times, then when it happens, you'll know what to do. And even if you're not in the regulated place where you can think of all the right things, you'll habitually just do them because you've done it a few times. And you'll just go do what you've been told to do, what you've been taught to do, what you know works. I think the same is true about some relationships and in regular life. You got to have some drills. You got to do some practice. You got to say, okay, these kind of situations are going to come up in life, and there are going to be points where either I'm going to get dysregulated by this other dysregulated person or situation, or I'm already going to be dysregulated because I'm dysregulated, right? Or unhealed, whatever you want to call it. And I need to be prepared to not react, but to respond in a way that serves me and doesn't hurt them. And that means I need to practice. I need to develop some coping skills, and I need to practice using them when I'm not in a situation where I'm stressed and upset and buttons pushed and all that kind of stuff, so that when I am, as invariably will happen in life, I can rely on my kind of default program. You can just go do the things that you just would do automatically because you've done it several times, and that's just what you do, right? When you're in this situation. That's what I've learned, and that's what I've been thinking through since I've been back here is, how I would have dealt with it differently, and then how I can embrace those lessons in my real life. And the next time I start noticing someone escalated things, early on, catch it. Okay. It's sort of like there's a Jill Scott song. I think it's A Long Walk. I think it's A Long Walk. And she does it live. And she's, if you've heard the song, it's "Let's Take a Long Walk in the Park." No, no, no. It's not that song. It's "You're Getting in the Way." You're getting in the way. You're getting in the way of what I'm feeling. Getting in the way of what I'm feeling. Sister girl. You know that song, right? And so she's doing it live and she's making a mockery of some girls that she must have overheard, or somebody did a video and they're like, I don't understand why Jill Scott's supposed to be such a positive person. And she's talking about beating somebody's, you know what? She's like, first of all, don't get it twisted. Just because I got it naturally, I have a tendency to think, especially Black people, somebody got it naturally, tend to think they're just positive person. They're, you just put them in this category where they're, they got to be about Afrocentrism. They got to be about upliftment. It's just an assumption that we often make because some of the people that we see, particularly in the Black community that are into this kind of speaking and teaching, they do tend to wear more natural hairstyles. Not all of them, just some of them. And I think of Jill Scott as a positive person because a lot of what she says and sings about is very positive. But she's like, don't get it twisted. I'm human. Number one. Number two, she's like, I did not write that song to talk about beating nobody's ass. She's like, I started very gentle, very ladylike. I come correct. Sister, girl, honey, you're going to have to understand getting in the way between me and my man. I start very gently. It's like, then she's not listening. So I'm like, hey, sister, girl, honey, listen. She's like, she still ain't understanding. She's like, I don't talk about beating nobody's ass until the bridge, right? Sometimes that's just going to happen no matter how regulated and healed you are. You're going to try a couple of times to get your point across. Folks are not going to always listen. They're not going to always obey. They're not going to always be within your control. They're going to do what they do. And then you can be stuck in a situation where you got to decide, am I going to this or am I going to this? Right? Am I going to go out or am I going to go in and take care of myself? And I've learned that you got to practice taking care of yourself. And you got to practice doing that in situations that come up that aren't as severe and aren't as extreme, so that when the severe ones come, as they will, for most of us, some of y'all, I know y'all have perfect lives and nothing ever goes wrong. They never get this kind of situations. But most of us, if you live long enough, you'll have them. And you're going to have to take care of yourself. You're going to have to say, hey, I need a minute. You're going to have to catch that early and be like, okay, before this gets even to this, me having to remind you a second time that I told you the first time I want to have this conversation. Okay, the second time instead of a reminder is, hey, excuse me, woman, I got to go to the bathroom. Or excuse me, woman, I got to go to the front desk and take care of something. I got a friend that's outside waiting on me or whatever. Make it up an excuse, whatever you got to do to get out, right? Get yourself out of that situation. Because had I done that, had I before giving warning number 2 and number 3 and making the requests that I've been taught to do, had I just said, you know what, she ain't right now. So I'm just going to go and I'm going to say I'm going to take breakfast downstairs, or I'm going to say I have to go do something, or I promise to go swim or dive or whatever, something, make up something. And I'm going to get the heck out of here before I have to throw this through that. I'm just saying. Anyway, it's been really fun being up here in Miami. I'm looking forward to going back down to the Keys. I came up here because I need to get my car fixed. And one of the challenges of living through the Keys is that, we're so far away. People don't realize the Keys are still 4 hours south of Miami by car. The Keys are relatively small. Key West is a very small island, 8 square miles. So a lot of stuff we just don't have. We don't have Land Rover dealerships. We don't have anything other than I think a Kia, We got a Chevy, we have a Cadillac dealership, I think, but they're all combined, we don't have a lot of stuff. So a lot of times, like if we have a luxury car, you got to come up here, especially if it's a foreign luxury car, you got to come up here to Miami to get it taken care of. Now, luckily Land Rovers, they only have to be serviced once a year. Expensive bill once a year, but it's once a year. So I come up here to do that. I go back. I usually stay a night or maybe make a weekend of it. But I'm looking forward to getting back. I'm looking forward to getting my car or selling it because I just got a text saying that somebody was looking at they need some of that in their inventory, and I'm happy to let them have it because I've had this car the longest I've ever had a car. I think I've had like 4 or 5 years, which is really long for me. And I don't need it. And the keys, I have my golf cart and I get around on that generally, or I walk, or I can take a bike. And when I need a car, I can just rent one. Like literally, I don't need a car down there. There's just really not much use for it. So I could also just unload and let somebody else have it, share your generosity and abundance with somebody else and you'll get blessed in return. That's what they say. Now, I don't know if that's true or not in this particular case. I think it is true generally in life. But anyway, I'm looking forward to finding out. All right. And sorry for all the background noise or whatever, but that's one of the things about doing things live and impromptu is that sometimes you got to deal with that. They're cleaning up the beach and all that kind of stuff. And you can hear all the little tractors moving around and picking up all the seaweed and dirt and whatever else is on the beach so they can make them look pretty. But I hope you heard my message. Most important, take care of yourself, right? Develop coping skills. Figure out what's inside of you, right? Figure out how you respond when you're under pressure, when you're under stress, and accept it and deal with it. Don't delude yourself like, oh, that's them. No, what came out of you was you. Now, what they did is them, right? When she gets dysregulated, she will chase you around. She will be relentless. She will do all kinds of things to you, call you names, try to hit you, she did a lot of different things. When she was dysregulated, to try to get me dysregulated, and it worked. But I'm not responsible for her. I'm responsible for me. You're not responsible for them. You're responsible for you. So figure out what's inside of you, deal with it. And until you do, develop some coping skills that'll help you prevent the worst possible outcomes when you're under stress, and then practice them. Don't just learn them. Don't just listen to what I said. Go do some of that stuff. When you have those many arguments in your relationship, when you have those little small disagreements at work or out in public, start practicing the whole, you know what? I'm just going to walk away. I'm just going to excuse myself. I'm just going to act like I didn't hear what they said. I'm just going to move on, right? Practice that. Practice it so that when you do get in a situation where it's not as easy to go there, you just go there automatically because that's what you've been doing for so long. All right. All right. This is the Jamal Cast. Thank you for watching live from Miami, although it won't be live when you see it because this is being recorded. I will edit and try to make the sound a little bit better. So hopefully when you hear it, you enjoy it. Let me know. Share some feedback, share some tips, share your coping skills and your experiences in the comments. I promise I read everyone. I will get back to you. If you have questions or if you have great thoughts, I might give you a shout out. And I'm going to make this really live and interactive by coming to the people that watch. So you could be on the Jamal Cast too. All right. Thanks for watching. See you later.